All right, guys. Today we're going to be breaking down why saturation in the solar industry doesn't exist, or at least it doesn't have to exist if you don't want it to. Now, if you've been doing solar for more than a day and you've knocked more than 2 doors and someone's answered, you're probably aware that the industry is what many people would call saturated. Now, when they say saturated, like what do they even mean? Well, if you look up the definition of saturated in business, Google says market saturation arises when the volume of a product or service in the marketplace has been maximized. Or another way they say it is, it's used to describe a situation where a product or service has become so common in a particular market that there are no new potential customers left for it. Now, are there no new potential customers left for solar? Obviously not, because everyone is still selling it, like selling a lot of it, right? Like in the good solar markets. And even in the markets that aren't traditionally, they're not actually like traditionally good for solar, people are still selling a lot of solar. And so today I want to talk more about the markets that people would call saturated, specifically California. Most people would agree that 100% California is one of the most competitive markets for solar. And if there are still customers to be had in California, why do people call it saturated? What's so saturated about California? Well, when you get high electricity prices, the highest in the nation, you get good sun hours, and you get favorable politics for solar, you have the perfect storm for large solar savings for the customer and then also large solar commissions for the rep and the company. There's a lot of value to be created because the problem in California with electricity is so big. And when you solve big problems, you can earn big commissions, right? So everybody and their dog is trying to sell solar, start a solar company in California. Everyone and their dog is knocking doors in California to try and sell solar. So when you knock doors, one of the most common things you'll say, is this solar? You're selling solar, right? Now, if all you're doing is selling solar, just like every other Joe Schmo that came by their door to try and sell them solar panels, yeah, like you're in a saturated market. But what I want to break down today is how you can distinguish yourself, and you actually don't have to be competing in the same league as all of those other guys who are going around knocking doors and trying to cash in on the solar rush. All right, so 3 things about solar saturation. Number 1, there's a reason it's saturated. If it didn't work, then everyone would stop doing it and people would stop knocking doors, and people would people have to be seeing some amount of success if it's still saturated. And so you have a decision to make. You have to decide, are you going to work at it until you find success? Because people are having success, or are you just going to give up and quit and say it's too saturated, I can't compete, I can't hang in the big leagues with the big dogs because it's too saturated? If they can figure it out, you can figure it out 100%. Now, number two, greatness is saturated on the front end, but not the back end. And now what I mean by that is, yeah, the opportunity for solar in California, the most saturated market, the opportunity is huge. It's almost unbelievable that you could bring that much value to a customer and value to like yourself. Like, that's crazy. And so there's a lot of people who try to get in on the solar gold rush. And so there's a ton of saturation on the front end because there's all these people who don't really know what they're doing, but they know that it's possible. So they just they try it out. They're trying it. They're not really committed to it. They're not committed to the long game. They're trying to make a quick buck. And so there's all this front end saturation of everyone trying to sell solar and start a solar company, that if you can actually commit to it for the long game, if you can see it as more than just a 4-month, summer, year, 2, 3-year thing, and you're actually willing to commit yourself to becoming a true competitor in the solar arena, you'll find the saturation actually starts to disappear. And that's the third thing when it comes to saturation. Saturation is an opportunity to distinguish yourself. If you are one of those people who are just trying to make a quick buck, you're trying to hop in and get out and cash in real quick, yeah, dude, you're going to deal with the saturation because you're just like everyone else who's trying to make a quick buck, jump in and not build something sustainable. However, if you're willing to commit yourself to actually being great at solar and great at solving problems for your customers, now saturation starts to disappear because you're not one of all those other guys. You're not like all the other guys going around, all the other companies going around trying to make a quick buck selling solar panels. You're different. Now, there are a number of different ways that we can actually distinguish ourselves, and we can show our prospects, our customers, our potential customers, we can actually show them that we're not like every other person going around. Our product is not like every other person going around. Things have changed, things are different. And that's the number one way that at least that I handle saturation when I'm out competing in the most saturated market. You'll hear me say this a lot. If you change the context, you change the allowable behavior. If you're just like every other guy going around or girl going around knocking doors, selling solar, the context is the exact same. Like if the context when you come by is the same as when someone else comes by and you get put into that bucket, yeah, dude, it's always going to be the same. Their behavior, the customer's behavior is going to be the same because the context is the same. It's just another door-to-door solar person. I don't need solar because whatever limiting belief is in their head, right? It's too expensive. I'm moving. My friend had a bad experience. Whatever it is, that context is all the same. And so when you go on the door, if you don't change the context, you're not giving them permission to act differently, and you're going to get rejected. So in the next video, I'll put a link here. In the next video, I'm going to break down how do we actually distinguish ourselves and use saturation to our advantage. We use saturation as an opportunity to show that what we do is different, that you are different, that your product is different, that the situation is different. Because now that it's different, they now have permission to act differently and behave differently to the point where they'll even work with you, sign a solar agreement, and put solar panels on their property. So I'll break that down on the next one. I'll see you there.